3rd, and we want to welcome everyone to our City Council meeting, and we'll call this meeting to order. If everyone would please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Deb.
Tyler.
Here.
Don.
Here.
Jody. Here. Harley.
Here.
Brad. Here. Rodney.
Here. Thank you, everyone, for attending today. I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion from Harley, a second from Brad. Any discussion? Roll call, Deb.
Tyler.
Yes.
Don.
Yes.
Jody. Yes. Harley.
Yes.
Brad.
Yes.
Rodney.
Yes.
Motion carried. Across the mayor's desk, I'd like to thank our videographer, Riker Brindley, this afternoon. And just a reminder that the Fireman's Pancake Breakfast is coming up in a week and a half, the middle of April, April the 15th. It'll be at the fire station between 6 o'clock in the morning and 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So we'd like everyone to support them. It's always good food for a good cause. So, council have anything they would like to share? Okay, we'll move to update from the city administrator.
Just a few announcements regarding available positions. I'll start with our seasonal public works. So we're still accepting applications for public works and parks and cemetery, as well as that includes streets and wastewater department as well. We're also accepting applications yet for lifeguards. Nick, how many are we up to now?
With Teresa, she said we're roughly around 32.
So, doing pretty good, but you can never have enough of them.
What's our goal there? How many, if we have 32, how many is
Like
ideal?
operating anywhere between 40 to 50 would be ideal.
Okay. Okay.
And then we also have a opportunity this summer for a part-time communications intern. This would be a position working under Joanne and really just kind of helping hone in, taking a lot of photos and videos and things like that as we kind of develop the sales pitch and branding for the city. So that's another opportunity we have. And then I just had the pancake reminder, which the mayor beat me to it, so.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll move to agenda item number 7. This is the citizens' opportunity to address the council with any item that's not on the agenda. Is there anyone who would like to address the council today? Don't see anyone. We'll move to agenda item number 8, and that's the consent agenda. And that it includes approving the minutes from our March 20th work session and our regular city council meeting, approving the bills that are to be paid this cycle, approve a cigarette permit for Family Dollar, approve the department reports, and approve the minutes from the various boards and commissions that have met, and approve Jacob's administrator's report.
Move to approve.
I'll second.
We have a motion from Harley, second from Jody. Any discussion?
The only thing is the permit for Family Dollar implies that they're going to need that permit sometime this month.
They're planning on May,
Okay?
Open in
Okay.
May.
beginning
Good.
of May, beginning to mid-May.
Okay.
Good. All right. Any other discussion? Vote please, Deb.
Tyler.
Yes.
Don.
Yes.
Jody. Yes. Harley.
Yes.
Brad.
Yes.
Rodney.
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you. We'll move into agenda item number 9 under new business. This is the third reading of an ordinance pertaining to parking violation fees.
Yes, this ordinance would increase the fee for our parking citation from its current amount of $3 up to $25. This is the third reading. We have not received any comments regarding the proposed ordinance.
Waive the third reading. Second.
Motion from Don, second from Tyler to waive the third reading. Any discussion? Vote please, Deb.
Tyler.
Yes.
Don.
Yes.
Jody. Yes. Harley.
Yes.
Brad.
Yes.
Rodney.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Move to approve the third reading. Second.
Motion and a second to approve the third reading. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, Deb.
Tyler.
Yes.
Don.
Yes.
Jody. Yes. Harley.
Yes.
Brad.
Yes.
Rodney.
Yes.
Move to adopt ordinance.
Second.
Motion and a second then to adopt this ordinance. Any discussion? Vote please, Deb.
Tyler?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Jody? Yes. Harley?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
Rodney?
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you. Agenda item number 10, this is a resolution concerning the 2023 Central Park Improvements Project.
So this was a project that we had originally approved going to bid on earlier in the year. When we had our bid opening on March 23rd, we did not receive any bids. As we discussed during the work session, it was, in talking with some of the prime contractors, really drilled down the issue was the availability of the certified installers for the splash pad. So we're proposing rebidding the project more or less as is with the amended timeline. This resolution would approve that rebidding. We would have the bid opening on April 27th, and then on May 1st, we'd have the public hearing on the proposed project, and then award the construction contract at that time. Work would begin this spring and summer. We'd at least have a minimum of a Phase 1 completion date here yet this calendar year of certain work, and then we'd be looking at a substantial completion date of July 1, 2024, and a final completion date of July 15th, 2024. And then I will just, it's minor, but it is in the resolution and wrong. That's probably worth approving with the amendment, but on the previously held bid date, it references April 23rd. That should be March 23rd.
Motion to approve resolution
I'll second.
With that amendment,
with that amendment.
motion from Rodney, second from Jody. Any discussion? Vote please, Deb.
Tyler?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Jody? Yes. Harley?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
Rodney?
Yes.
Motion carried. Agenda item number 11, this is a resolution that deals with the Algona Municipal Airport Runway Project.
This is ordering notice to bidders and approving plans and specification and setting the public hearing date for the runway displacement project. We're finally moving forward. This will officially close 100th Avenue this fall. We've already passed the resolutions and such. When we go out to bid, we have a bid opening of April 21st. The council will approve May 1st. We have to apply for the grant for the discretionary funds, which are already set aside with the FAA by May 5th. The project cannot begin before August 25th and will be completed yet before winter. This is only for the dirt work. You want to get all the dirt work done so it can settle through the winter before we do the rest of the airport project next year.
Then Phase 2, obviously, then would be next year, and that'd be the actual construction, pavement of the runway, the lighting upgrades would take place then.
Entertain a motion to approve this resolution.
So moved.
I'll second.
Motion from Rodney, second from Jody. Any discussion? Hearing none, vote please, Deb.
Tyler?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Jody? Yes. Harley?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
Rodney?
Yes.
Motion carried. Agenda item number 12 is a resolution that refers to the 2023 Finn Drive and Wooster Street Improvement Project.
Since Matt Cole, Bolton Mank is here, I don't know, I'm gonna have to introduce you here. You won't be here enough times. Yeah, I'll let you go ahead and speak on this.
All right, this task order number 2 is the second amendment to the 2023 professional services agreement with Bolton Bank and the city. This covers all the construction administration, staking, construction inspection, construction operation, final closeout of the Finn Drive and Wooster Street project. And all the details are laid out in the pages.
So we currently have a pre-construction meeting scheduled for April 18th with the general contractor, Reddings Gravel and Excavating. So I imagine they'd be starting then, kind of schedule and phasing then, but starting there shortly after.
Yeah, the tentative plan right now is to start on Rooster Street. Just for access concerns out on Snap-on, or Finn Drive, sorry, until Capacious Brothers and some of those other businesses out there have a slower speed. So, get started on Rooster Street.
And part of the scopes and services, that kind of was part of our estimate, I mean, as far as
Yep.
what we, overall project estimate. I know
Yeah,
that-
the
Yeah.
task order, I think task order number 7 from the 2022
Yeah.
agreement was the design costs, so up to awarding the bid. This is just the construction side of the original engineering estimate for the project.
Yeah, so yeah, just as Matt described, the way we do those, we have one contract that's just for design and bid letting, and then once a contract's awarded, we do another version of that agreement, which is just for the construction administration side of things. So this, $238,000, I think is 9.9% of the $2.4 million as-bid construction costs, combined with what we're looking at for actuals on the design side of things, which ended up being less than what was the maximum amounts because we ended up reducing the Finn Drive scope of work. I think total engineering fees equate to about 17% of the construction cost, which is, within kind of the industry standard that you typically see on these projects of 15 to 20%.
And just to confirm, this is down to Poplar then, is that?
We're reconstructing Finn Drive to the low point catch basins, so that's north of Poplar Street.
Okay.
Kind of right in the cornfield area there by Bishop Garrigan.
Oh,
Right in the low point before Snap-on's driveways.
And that was really until we come up with a plan of how we're going to actually fix it and then how we're going to fund it. Drainage of that Garrigan area, that water would all need to come through here. So we upsized the McCoy, but what we didn't want to do is we originally had it going down to Finn Drive and build that, and then something's undersized or we change how we're going to address that problem. And so in how many years we're digging up, kind of a brand new section, also combined with just what we've been seeing in prices going up so much, reducing that scope, ended up spending about what we originally thought we would spend. So it's really just to, until we have a plan on how we're going to get this drainage to the east. This gets the section in the worst condition done, and will allow us time to figure out that plan and then be able to knock out that section pretty easily once we get to that point.
Yeah, tentatively, our schedule to do the railroad crossing potentially this year yet as well, on Finn Drive. So it'll be good to get them both done at the same time, so we're not trying to redo, the south half of Finn while they're trying to do, Main Street or something, this railroad crossing. I think it'll be a good time to get it done. Finn Drive will be closed anyway, it'll just have to be closed at Oak Street or a different haul route in town.
And when we did the design work for it, we had preliminary design on Finn Drive done, so the section that we were going to end up dropping, as well as the railroad, that, okay, everything's going to line up the way it should when we get to that next phase. So yeah, we'll be hopefully, we're still waiting on some final approvals from the DOT and getting a contract from them, and then verification from Canadian Pacific Railroad, I think they've got a new name now, of their timeline, because basically what happens in that is we'll hire a contractor, the railroad will come in and they'll try to knock out that crossing within a week. And they're basically working on top of each other, and then get out of there to get it closed and done as soon as possible. So that'll be, bid separately from these other projects that we've already gone up to bid or currently bid for. Ultimately, the city, our share, and that will be 20% of the total cost.
And just to confirm that Poplar Street still be open to through traffic even if we're working on the railroad crossing and
Yes.
construction on the street?
Yeah, we're gonna kind of utilize, now that we have Snap-on Drive as a through street on the east side of Snap-on, we're gonna kind of, use that as our detour route, for any traffic that needs to get around to the south side of Finn. Obviously, when the railroad crossing construction happens for a week, they're gonna need to kind of set up their own detour to either, run down Poplar or come down Main Street and down Oak Street and over back down Finn Drive. But that's kind of the plan. We'll keep the semi-traffic on, all routes, sorry.
And the trail will be still open, or is that gonna close in that area where it's crossing?
During the railroad section, that will have to close for a time, because part of that scope of work, though, does include replacing the approaches on those, just because the grade will be changing.
Yeah. Also, much needed improvements, I think.
Yes,
so,
for sure. Yep.
So I will make a motion to approve the resolution.
Second.
We have a motion from Tyler, a second from Don. Any other discussion? Vote please, Deb.
Tyler?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Jody? Yes. Harley?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
Rodney?
Yes.
Motion carried, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
Matt.
Agenda item number 13 is resolution approving transfer of funds.
Invite John Bilstein up.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. Tonight before you is a resolution. It's the annual transfer of funds from Alberta Municipal Utilities to the city. This, as a little brief history, has been taking place in some form since the Electric and Water Utility Board was created by the public back in the early 1950s. The newest agreement, or the current agreement, has been in place since November of 2018. What happens is that the Board of Trustees has to find that we have a surplus of funds, which they did last week at their meeting Thursday, March 30th. And then from there, once we go through the calculation, there's a surplus of funds, then we're able to transfer, based on your resolution, of funds. And we have a few different amounts. One of them in the electric utility is back to that agreement, is a flat amount of $400,000 annually. In addition to that, we've added, this will be the second year that we have $10,000 for seasonal decorative lighting, so Christmas lights. And then also another $25,000, which is our first year towards the splash pad project. So that makes $435,000. In addition, the water utility has a flat amount of $45,000 currently for the two different transfers that we have for the water and electric utility.
All right. Thanks, John.
Sounds
Thank you, John.
Yeah.
John.
Motion to approve resolution for transfers of funds. Second.
We have a motion from Rodney, second from Brad. Any discussion? Vote please, Deb.
Tyler?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Jody? Yes. Harley?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
Rodney?
Yes.
Motion carried. Agenda item number 14, this is a resolution setting a date and time for a public hearing regarding the fiscal year 23-24 budget.
Yes, so we are looking at setting our public hearing for Monday, April 17th at 5 p.m. Here in City Hall. That'll be on the final proposed budget and levy rates. We have put together, I need to, sorry, pull up another attachment here. We put together two different options in the upload to the council packet for the levy rate. So one is that our current FY23 levy rate is 16.07. A few things that have changed in the last year. So ultimately, the residential rollback rate from FY24 to proposed FY24 went unchanged. Originally, the rollback rate was going up, so a higher percentage of residential properties being taxed, but that calculation was changed back in February. The really big things impacting the budget are the multi-residential rollback rate. That's been declining on a scale from 100% of taxable value down to the residential taxable value. FY24 will be the first year, and then we'll stay at that. So in FY23, multi-residential was paying taxes on 63.75% of their property value. Beginning of FY24, that will drop down to the residential rate of that 54.13%. On the commercial side, back in 2015, the state changed the commercial industrial rollback from 100 down to 90%. We are getting backfilled payment on those, but that's on declining scale, so that's about $20,000 a year in revenue that we're slowly phasing out from the state. But the big impact that hit us this year was changes to the business property tax credit program. And so we actually, our commercial and industrial property values were dramatically impacted because now the first 150 of commercial and residential is taxed, actually commercial and industrial is taxed at the residential rate. And then after that first 150, it goes back to the 90%. So when the state changed that residential levy back in February, that actually brought down our taxable commercial and industrial properties as well. So what that basically has done then is for us to generate the same amount of revenue as we currently have, that puts a greater burden on the residential side of things. We did see, kind of generally across the board in Algona from the previous fiscal year to the proposed fiscal year 24. A lot of residential properties, their assessed value went up. So obviously, even with the same rollback rate, their taxable value will go up as well. So as we've had our budget meetings and discussions, what we've tried to find is where's that happy medium of commercial and multi-family is going to see a tax reduction. I mean, just because of the rollback changes, and it's, especially on the commercial side, it'll be, relatively significant. But with our residential assessed values going up, how do we collect revenue? But when it's really, the burden's on the residential side of things to make up that revenue loss difference, where we find that happy medium. So we did a few different things to help buy down the levy, and really the final levy amount that we determine is just how much of this money that we're going to move. So the two different levy scenarios that we have, the first one would drop our levy down to 15.48. Included in that is $195,000 transfer from lost into debt service. And so that is just reducing how much money we need to collect from the debt service levy. We're using $100,000 in our fund balance from employee benefit fund. That's something that is we have a spend down plan over time, but those funds are, eventually we're going to get down to a more reasonable balance. Right now we're about at $500,000 in that fund for a balance. We'd like to get down to that $350 range. So if 100 this year, I think that's planned out for 65 and 35 the following years. And then as part of the business property tax credit payments coming in from the state, the best guesstimate we could have on what that might be, we did direct the proportional share of that to the employee benefits levy and the debt service levy. And so that brings up on the 15.48 levy, it's really $360,000 that we're using to reduce that levy. If we had none of those, we'd probably see a levy rate of about 16.5, 16.6. Lost is something that's been discussed as possibly being changed and taken out, over by the state in legislation. So even though it's something that was adopted locally, we might not always have it there. Also with that, this year we're estimating about $850,000 in revenue. So it's certainly, even if we do retain local control on that, it's not realistic that, okay, we could take $200,000 from that every year to buy down the levy, because typically that's used for a large capital project, so we don't have to borrow money for that, which ultimately is costing more. As I mentioned, the employee benefit fund balance in the current FY23 budget, I think we're using about $140,000 of that balance, which is getting us to that $500,000. We're basically collecting $100,000 less than what we otherwise would to buy down, to spend down that balance to $400,000. And then the $65,000 on the business property tax credit. Those payments are there today, but as the state did with the commercial reform, they said they'll backfill the cities until they decide not to. So, as we look at how we buy down the levy to help stair step the dramatic increase we saw in a lot of residential properties on the assessed value, trying to find the happy medium of buying it down to a reasonable level, but not buying down in an excess way that we're going to have to, see the levy rate dramatically go up the following year, or really compromise our ability that in the future, whatever circumstances might be thrown at us, that we still, have those funds available that if we need to buy it down, we can. The second levy option that was uploaded has a 15.64 levy, and really the only difference between these two is instead of using 195 on debt service, we're using 150,000. Under the 1.48 levy, our actual property tax revenue collected from city property taxpayers will go down by about $30,000. If we go up to the 15.64 levy, our property tax revenues in FY24 compared to FY23 will be up approximately 16,000, so less than 0.5%. And really, so all growth is dependent on the guesstimate that we have in state backfill payments coming this year.
Yeah, I guess I would be for the second option, just because we are so much at the whim of the legislature right now, and things like the local option sales tax is something that if they decide they want to control that, it could go away. And even their backfill payments, we know those are going to go away. So really, both of those we should look at as temporary funds. And you should never use temporary funds to pay for your annual expenses. So I think we should be a little bit conservative on how we do this. We would like to keep the asking as low as possible, but I think we have to be a little bit cautious on that too.
So Jacob, the two scenarios here was 195,000 for loss and 150,000 there.
Mm-hmm.
I think we talked maybe about the 30,000 reducing the loss of debt service transfer by 30,000, so that'd keep the total about the same from last year to next year. Is that right?
So we ended up doing a few changes that changed kind of that scenario. So one of the things that the state's looking at with their property tax reform is combining a number of the levy rates together, and then you have a cap on how much you can increase going forward. So this year we adopted, or what we have proposed is we're going to collect under the emergency levy, which is something we haven't used before. And so that's going to generate approximately $72,000. We did originally just have that going straight into debt service to reduce that. And then we had 125 coming out of loss to debt service. But when we looked at it a little bit closer, that emergency levy, that has to get transferred into the general fund. And we already had, I think it was 275 from loss going into the general fund. And so what we ended up changing, which is why the levy changed by I think 0.01 from the 0.47 scenario we looked at, is we're reducing our loss into general from 275 to 200. And that's getting made up by that 72 from the emergency levy now going into the general, and that 70 that we was otherwise going into the general from lost, we're adding that to the debt service. So that's why we went from 125 on the debt service using loss to 195 in this 4-8 scenario. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess I'm talking more if we went from 195 down to 165, subtracting. It's kind of a middle ground between the two, I guess. I don't know, I guess I'm not sure what everybody else thinks, if we had a chance to look that over and what that would mean for property taxes, but just kind of split it a little bit, I guess, between the two.
Overall, I don't think we're talking that many dollars, adjusting compared to the overall budget. The variables in this that drive us crazy are the state legislature and the whims they have as far as what they should make a change to. And I always laugh at how they make a change, they take it right down to the 100th. You know, it's like, sure, they're that sure that that's what it needs to be. The other variable, though, is assessments. And, you know, I hear that we're starting to get those in the mail now, the new assessments this year. And that is such a clouded area. I would really like to see us invite the assessor in sometime and explain how that works so we can better understand. You know, and it varies so much. One person might have theirs go up considerably, another one might actually go down.
Right.
And then year to year, you can have an upward trend or downward trend. I really would like to understand that better.
Yeah, and like it mapped out too,
Yeah.
to see what areas are going up, are they trending up, are certain areas staying level, are certain areas going up? Are the commercial properties, did they see a change at all? I was just, not that you would know this offhand, but I'm like, since the commercial properties are seeing the tax rate go down so much, did they see their assessed values change at all?
Yeah, I think people deserve some explanation of this, just what the logic is behind why this happens.
And I assume that's gonna affect the county and school taxes, all, the rest of the tax as well. It's a bigger portion than what the city taxes are,
Yeah.
so.
Sure.
Hospital and, yeah.
Yep.
Everything.
Yeah, when you look at the portion, who gets paid out of that pie, one thing I just thought was interesting, worth pondering, is the assessors actually paid. The assessors has a slice out of that, and the county has a slice out that the county pays everything else at the courthouse. I'm curious why the assessor ever got their own slice of the pie instead of being under the county. That's, like I say, makes you think.
That would be the state legislature making that decision.
So I have pulled up now is our assessed values from FY '23, which those are based on January 1, 2021 values. Yeah, and then, I'm sorry, then FY '24, which that's based on January 1, 2022 values. So, you know, our residential values went up by, 14%, commercial and industrial went up by 12 and 10%. So, we did see, overall real property in the city went up by 8.6% in assessed value. So we had a big growth year for that. I know on the residential side, pretty much all of that can be attributed to multi-residential now being classified under residential, and then just assessments going up. So on the taxable side, again, we're seeing, okay, commercial, industrial went up by, on average 11%. Well, on the taxable side, our commercial taxable value actually went down. Let's see here, so,
Can't you send this to us?
yeah.
Okay.
So like in the assessed value, commercial went up by 35 million or 8.6%, but our actual taxable value went down by 900 or nearly $1 million. So I mean, it's really just what we're no longer collecting on commercial and industrial that's really putting us in the biggest bind. So yeah, if you kind of go back there, okay, assessed values went up by 8.6%, but taxable value of that went up by 3.1. So at our last work session, we had discussed kind of going for that, 15.45 to 15.5 levy. Like I said earlier, it'd be nice if there was like just a right answer you could figure out, and it's not just a balance. I think just kind of some of the more discussions that we have, where we certainly want to minimize how much property taxes might, go up. I also don't want to find us a position where we're really using a lot of our cash reserves to buy down this 1 year, and that's going to compromise us in the long run. Which is why we ended up, after kind of some more discussion, we ended up putting together that other option of that 6.4 levy. It's still a net levy decrease. Multi-residential, commercial, industrial all see a tax cut yet, and really the effect of that, 0.18 difference on a property, it's probably 1% or less in terms of their city property tax share.
Yeah.
Just my 2 cents. Increasing our total revenue is $15,909 with the way inflation is. I think we are doing a very good job to keep our revenue growth very low with the way inflation is, if we would go with the 15.64.
Yeah.
If we would go with the other scenario, we're collecting less in revenues than what we did the year before, so our reserves are going backwards.
Yeah.
I mean, they're going to a somewhat, we're using some reserves here and not here. But I would hate to see us lose or use a lot of our reserves with not knowing what the economy's going to do and not knowing what the state's going to do.
And like you say, the economy, I don't know if that affects how they assess values,
Well, no, but
but
it happens to our expenses though, and most city expenses have gone up a lot more than the 8% of the general inflation amount. Excuse me, it seems like things cities have to buy are up 10 to 15%, year over year. And if we're only asking for a 0.4% increase in our revenues, I think we're doing very good at managing our property values, or our property levy.
Certainly, yeah, to Barb's point, our expenses are up a lot more than that, and ideally, our revenues would match that.
Right.
But it's really trying to also, try to meet people halfway in terms of, okay, we knew it assessed really went up, how do we stair step that, but knowing it's a bridge, it's not something that we can sustainably buy down at this rate, it's helping adjust up.
And actual dollar-wise, for property tax increase, we're looking at $100 a year on an average home. Is that what you and I kind of talked about? Not even that, maybe? Yeah. So it's very minimal of what we're talking
Well,
about.
it depends on what their assessed value went
Right,
up
yeah,
also.
yeah. But I
But
mean,
if,
kind of an average.
comparing apples to apples, roughly on a $100,000 house, if it stayed $100,000 without the increase, it'd be right around $9 a year increase.
Well,
Yeah.
if your assessed value didn't change, even if in the 15.64, you're getting a tax cut.
Yeah. Right.
Problem is, it's okay, the value went up by so much, so the 20-some sample houses that I just pulled in a scenario, so there's one, this is, it was 23, it was assessed at 100,000. Its FY '24 assessment is 108,000 now. So with that 15.64 levy, their city property taxes would be going up by approximately 6%, which is $50 a year, or, less than $5 a month.
Yeah. So when you put it in that perspective, it's really pretty easy to understand that,
Yeah.
And I think by all the analysis that Jacob's done, he's done a very good job of trying to look at our property tax impact on our residential properties.
Yeah.
Well, all of our properties, actually.
Yeah, I agree. We spend a lot of time on this, and we're trying our very, very best to keep property tax increases to a minimum, certainly in comparison to inflation and everything else going up. So,
Yeah, I mean, it's really the state's made a series of decisions over the last 10 years with commercial reform, multi-residential reform, that, again, even if us just staying at no growth in terms of property tax revenue, residential has to go up.
yeah.
And so if we actually need, increase our revenues at all, which we need to, but trying to find that balance, it's going to hit residential. And that's frustrating, but the state's made those decisions for us.
So, actually, our agenda item is just to set a date and time for the public hearing.
Yeah.
But,
Well,
The key is which
Right.
notice do we publish?
right, yeah, exactly, yeah,
Yeah.
right.
I don't see how we go, for the 15.64, I
Yeah.
don't see how we go much lower than that at this point. Do you agree?
I agree.
Yeah, I think
just
we're
don't see it.
Okay with that?
pretty much in agreement there, so.
Well, I make the motion that we set the public hearing, what was the date for the next meeting?
17.
Yeah, April 17th.
17th, and that we go with the 15.64113 levy.
I'll second.
Okay, a motion from Harley and a second from Jody. Any other discussion? Hearing none, vote please, Deb.
Tyler,
Yes.
Don,
Yes.
Jody.
Yes.
Harley.
Yes.
Brad,
Yes.
Rodney.
Yes.
Motion carried, thank you. And that'll be in Thursday's paper, we need to publish it by?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. Agenda item number 15, this is a resolution authorizing transfers between city funds.
Yeah, so this is a series of transfers to close out 3 capital projects from 2021 and then to consolidate our sanitary sewer reserve. So just quick on the sewer reserve, we currently have an equipment reserve and just a capital reserve. We just want to make that one reserve to simplify things. So at 73,000, we'll transfer that from the equipment reserve to just the reserve, and then we only have one reserve count to keep track of. On the 309, 310, and 312 funds, so those are capital projects from calendar year 21. So the way our fund accounting works is as those bills come in, construction bills, engineering bills, those all get paid out of that particular fund. And then as we collect any revenue, so that could be, reimbursement payments from AMU for their share of it, or if, private, owner, or private properties has had, areas paved in front of their houses that they're responsible for, okay, those get paid into that. And then we really look at, okay, when the project's all done, how far, how much in the red is that, and then we transferred the funds for those proportional shares. So in 309 and 312, they'll zero those out, and then those capital funds will be done. On 310 North Main, we actually currently have a balance of about 73,000 in that account. We still need to transfer over the sanitary sewer utility share. So that will equal at 161,000, and then that will get transferred into just our 300, our general capital streets project. So that money will go back into other street projects. But with the way the reimbursements worked with it, because there's a DOT grant on that, and what we had already transferred in a previous year, we ended up, with a balance on that. But it'll ultimately just get recycled into additional street work. So it really kind of an accounting function, but it can sometimes be really confusing how we have to do this, so happy to answer any questions.
But this will simplify a lot.
Yeah, basically take 4 of our funds and we can no longer have to worry about those on the, few dozen funds that we have, probably 40-some.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion from Harley, second from Rodney, to approve this transfer between city funds. Any discussion? Vote please, Deb.
Tyler,
Yes.
Don.
Yes.
Jody.
Yes.
Harley.
Yes.
Brad,
Yes.
Rodney.
Yes.
Motion carried. Agenda item number 16 is to approve a pay application.
So this is a pay application number 3 from Spawn Ranch for the Central Park Skate Park project. So the contract agreement with Spawn Ranch was that 35% of the contract price was due upon 100% completion of construction. They technically achieved 100% construction in calendar year '22. The issue being that some of the last panels that they poured, we're all in agreement of, those need to be, replaced. They just didn't get finished, the finishing right with some rain that they had. So they're coming back in May to wrap those up. But in terms of, all the, all the metal and, all the actual structures and the other concrete, that has been installed. So in talking with the team at Spawn Ranch, we thought, I think it's appropriate to, pay them something because they obviously do have a lot of outstanding costs on this project not covered. So what they ended up proposing was pay application number 3 would be for 25% of the project. So it's about $25,000 that would have otherwise been due on pay application 3 that what isn't being collected. And then that would leave a total of 15% of the contract price, so $38,857 for our balance to finish once the project's completely done.
So is the dirt scaping around the outside of that where it needs to be, or does that need work too, or?
That needs work
just
too.
seeding?
They'll do some additional kind of final grading and tapering, and then they'll compact around the splash pad. And I think the plans call for they'll leave 2 inches of will be topsoil that we've already got on site that we'll bring in. That was planned to be part of the larger Central Park project, and then we'll move that dirt or have the contractor do it, and then it was actually in those plans, and then that would be seeded. So it's really just kind of final grading, compaction, and then separately we'll move that black dirt and get it seeded.
So that's separate from this?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, it's just a cement. I guess I'd move to approve it as is.
Second.
We have a motion from Harley, second from Rodney, to approve this pay application. Any other discussion? Vote please, Deb.
Tyler?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Jody? Yes. Harley?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
Rodney?
Yes.
Motion carried. Agenda item number 17 concerns appointments to the Cassuth County Multi-Jurisdiction Hazard Mitigation Plan.
You want to speak on this one? I can.
Yeah,
So Algona, we're a party to, and I believe all the cities in Cassuth County are, what is the Cassuth County Multi-Jurisdiction Hazard Mitigation Plan. That has to be updated every 5 years. Our last update was in 2018. So that's a countywide plan, but then within it, there's specifically an Algona section. And things that you do in that is you look at, what are your vulnerabilities that might be, vulnerable populations, vulnerable infrastructure, what your hazards and threats are. And then identifying, okay, what mitigation actions are we already doing? What things could we do in addition to? What might just be on the long-term radar to, we eventually want to look at that. It's a good planning exercise, so you can hopefully, be prepared when something happens, as well as it's a key piece in keeping that plan current to remain eligible for federal disaster dollars if there is a disaster. So maintaining that plan is important. In talking with Chris Mueller at Cassuth County EMA, they would like a primary and a secondary person or people appointed for that plan update. I believe that the plan update will occur this calendar year, I believe over the kind of the summer, the fall. I think they anticipate at least 3 in-person meetings, those dates to be determined. I do expect that myself as well as, our police and fire will be participants in those meetings to help develop the plan. But where this really is a policy document in terms of identifying, actions that we may want to consider and bring before council, I think it would be in the best interest of the process and be appropriate for it to actually be, the mayor and a council person or 2 council people that would be the primary and secondary contacts. Again, with the staff then, participating and still supporting it. So Mayor, I'm not sure if did Krista give you an indication on the timeline for when those meetings might be?
This involvement, it will probably be a year and a half, 18 months to complete this, and this because this needs to be completed by the end of 2024, I think. So, yeah, a year, a little bit more. A few meetings, few Zoom meetings, but
And it ends up being like a 500-page document, so
Yeah.
that's why it takes, I mean, you're not going to be consistently meeting for a year and a half.
no. No, it's just
Did he say
important.
we're writing a 500-page document?
What?
Did he say we're writing a?
No, no, no. Who the county hires
Those-
is writing it.
Yeah, it's just important that we keep this up to date. There are communities who haven't had this up to date, and then tornadoes came through, and they didn't have any funds to restore, tornado sirens or something. So it's important that we keep this up to date, and it was last updated in 2018, I believe. So,
And a lot of times, there's extra funds available, so let's just use an example, you need to update your storm sirens. If it's in your FEMA plan or your hazard mitigation plan that you need to do that, in FEMA, the state agency of FEMA has extra, or it's Homeland Security, I guess, has extra funds from a disaster in the state of Iowa. You can apply for those funds if it's in your hazard mitigation plan. So you don't always have to have a disaster to get these funds, but you have to have it in your plan in order to apply for them.
and I'm willing to be part of that plan also if there's a council person that would like to join me.
I don't have a problem if you want, or Brad can, don't bother me.
I'll do it.
There you go.
Okay,
Okay.
all right.
Perfect.
I don't want Rodney being.
They'll just send me from the school.
He's gonna order sirens for everyone.
Oh, yeah, we want to keep them off and doing, okay. So we need a motion then to appoint me and Brad to this multi-jurisdiction hazard mitigation plan.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Vote please, Deb.
Tyler,
Yes.
Don,
Yes.
Jody,
Yes.
Harley,
Yes.
Brad,
Yes.
Rodney.
Heck, yes.
Motion carried, I think.
Yeah.
Well, good, thank you. And our final agenda item, number 18, this is notification of Don Heipel's term expiring on the Algona Municipal Utilities Board of Trustees. His term expires the 31st of May, and this is a mayoral appointment. This is just the first notification of that. So it is 5:55, and I would entertain a motion then to adjourn this city council meeting.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. The meeting's adjourned. Thank you.